everybody. So I was just gonna jump right back on here and quickly record. It's not gonna be very quick, but it's kind of a synopsis of the day that we found out about the twins and being pregnant with the twins. So for those of you who don't know much about our story, I'll give you a little background. My husband and I, his name is Mike, and we got married in August of 2012. And we had our daughter Sadie in June of 2014. Then we had Killian in September of 2015. And we started trying, I stopped nursing Killian in June 2016. And then I got pregnant in July 2016. And I had miscarriage. And then I got pregnant in August, 3 weeks later, after I had the miscarriage. And I got pregnant with the twins. So, yeah, we found out about the twins really early on. I was about 3 weeks along, and it was just a home pregnancy test. And because I knew, physical symptoms, like number one was I was late, and I'm like never late. So I was like, okay, let's just buckle up because here we go. So, yeah, I found out pretty early. I guess I thought I was further along because I was feeling more pregnant. Like I was having symptoms. I was a little nauseous already. And it turned out I was only 3 weeks along. So I made my appointment for my first ultrasound pretty early. It was early September. Because I was feeling sicker and just uncomfortable. And like I knew I was pregnant. Like I felt pregnant. Usually with my other two, I had about 6 weeks before I really felt anything. And then I would start feeling like kind of nauseous. Like just a little yucky. And it was mostly like in the evening. Well, with the twins, it was like immediately I started feeling kind of gross, and then it was like all day I was just like nothing. I didn't want to eat anything. I was really nauseous, didn't want to stand. I just wanted to lay around all day long. So originally I had made my appointment early September for my first ultrasound, so it was about 2 weeks after we even found out I was having the twins, or that I was pregnant, I mean. And my original thought was because of my symptoms, because of where I was and how I was feeling. My original thought was that I had, maybe in July, that I had like miscarried one baby and I was still pregnant with the other, and that's why I was feeling so much further along. So that's what I was kind of going into the ultrasound thinking was, okay, maybe I'm further along than I thought. But that like never happens. I'm never that lucky. So the morning of my ultrasound was a really early ultrasound. Mike was supposed to go with me, but he overslept. So he stayed here with the kids a little bit, and then his mom showed up, and she was going to take over watching them while he went to work. And so I had left, and I was like, oh, it's fine. It's my first ultrasound. It's not a big deal, whatever. So I got there, and it was an early one. It was like an 8:30 or 8 a.m. ultrasound, and so I was one of the first ones. And I got there, got all set up, and luckily, the ultrasound tech was like, well, we're going to try first to just do it on your belly, and if we can't see anything, then we'll go like internally. So I was like desperately hoping she didn't have to go internally, because I've never had one. It just seems really uncomfortable. Luckily she didn't. So she put the probe on my belly, and she saw the babies immediately. And since it wasn't my first rodeo and I kind of knew what to expect from an ultrasound, I looked on the screen, because there's like a TV in front of you, and I look up at the screen and I said, oh my God, what the hell is that? And I said it out loud because I knew what one baby looked like in an ultrasound. I sort of had seen pictures of what two looked like, and that looked a lot like two, which was always my biggest fear, was to have twins. And so she goes, there's two babies in there. And so immediately I started just like hysterically ugly crying. Like I covered my face, and I was like hysterically crying, just freaking out. And like, I can't even describe how many thoughts just went racing through my mind. I couldn't believe it. Like, we live in a small little 2-bedroom house, and that I thought of that. Like, my husband and I we sleep in the sun porch. We turned it into a bedroom because our son basically kicked us out of our room because he's such a light sleeper. So there was that, and we had a 5-passenger vehicle. So I was like, oh my God, we have to get a new car. And like, I was like, oh, how are we going to afford this? Like, I wasn't feeling very competent as a parent anyway, pretty frazzled, and just all of these thoughts. Like, I had tried to space this pregnancy out a little bit more than we did with Killian and Sadie, their spacing, because that was physically very challenging to be pregnant with Killian when Sadie was only 6 months old. I got pregnant with Killian, and that was physically demanding on my body. I don't think my body was ready for it. I mean, obviously I'm okay now, and the baby was great. He was very strong, but it was hard. And so I knew when I was pregnant with him, and even after I had him, I stuck to it, and it was like, I don't want to get pregnant again until August. And well, I didn't, but God has a funny sense of humor about these things when we try to make our own plans. So so these are all these thoughts that are running through my mind, and I'm thinking about all these other family members I have that wanted to have twins and were praying for twins and hoping for twins, and twins were just a huge fear of mine. They were terrifying. I was terrified to have twins. And here I am with twins. So she finished her ultrasound, and I honestly don't remember anything else from the ultrasound other than her saying there's 2 babies in there, and I don't remember anything else. And so I left because that appointment was just for an ultrasound, and then I was supposed to drive across town and have my medical appointment with the midwife where they do the blood work and all the urine tests and everything. And so I left and I ran out the front door, and I immediately threw up in their bushes. And then I ran to my car, and I was crying and crying and crying and crying and crying and crying. And I called my mom first and called her, and she had known that I had had a miscarriage in July. And so I called her crying, and she knew I was having an ultrasound that day. And so I think she was kind of bracing for impact, basically. And I was like, Mom, it's twins. I'm having identical twins. Because at the time, at the first ultrasound, because I was 6 weeks along, and they were from August. They weren't from July, of course. They were both from August. So I was pregnant with twins, but not in July. But at the time, they couldn't see that they were in 2 separate sacs. So for a while, I didn't have an ultrasound again for a month, or a little over a month. And so I just had that looming over me because we didn't know if they were mono twins or mono-di twins. But we did know that there was only 1 placenta. So that was really scary because mono twins they're really high risk. So luckily that's not what we're having. We're having mono-di twins, which is still a moderate risk, but more doable physically. Anyways, I called my mom and told her, and she had a pretty candid reaction that I can't really repeat. But I was just in such shock. I mean, I was shaking, and it was just the worst reaction you could possibly have to a pregnancy, probably. But I was crying and just so overwhelmed. I mean, I really just couldn't understand what God's plan was. I'm like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this? I was questioning, and I'm just terrified. I mean, absolutely terrified. We are going to have 4 kids under the age of 3 once the twins are here. So Sadie will still be 2. They'll be born 2 months before Sadie turns 3. And Killian will be almost 19 months. So it's going to be an adjustment. I mean, but anyway, so yeah, so I called my mom and cried and cried and cried, and she kind of calmed me down. I stopped crying. And then I tried calling my husband. He didn't answer. So I drove across town. I don't even remember how I got there. To this day, couldn't tell you. It was about a 15-minute drive. And I don't remember. So I parked my car and I texted my mother-in-law who was here. And I said, if Mike is still there, he needs to call me. And so she knew that I had had a miscarriage in July. And so she was like, okay, Mike. And luckily he was still here. So he called me immediately while I was in the parking lot at my next doctor's appointment and was like, okay, what's going on? He was ready for anything. And I was freaking out. I really thought he was going to be so terrified and almost upset, like it was my fault or something, which that's ridiculous, but that's how I felt. And he was so excited. He was so happy. And I guess he just had tears in his eyes when he got off the phone, I guess is what my mother-in-law said. And so that has actually made everything, and his happiness has just maintained and even grown, and that's really made me come around to the idea and let the shock wear off a little faster, which is still a process. But so anyway, yeah, so luckily that next appointment I went to got canceled because the midwife was delivering a baby. So I did get to go home and regroup, and we got to tell all our friends and family, and it was really nice. So every day the shock wears off a little bit more, and I get a little more excited, and we're having a hard time picking out 2 names that we like. equally. But that's okay. It's fun. That's a fun part of having babies, is picking out their names. And now we get to pick out 2 first names and 2 middle names that will go with them. And so it's getting really enjoyable. And we're starting to get prepared. Luckily, I already had all the stuff. I think I'm so grateful that this is not my first pregnancy, actually. A lot of people say, oh, if I had twins, I'd hope it would be my first. And I'm really grateful it's not, because I've done this and I know just what exactly a baby needs. There's about 5 things that I would consider like a baby needs when they're baby, like that. If you got it as a newborn, it'll last you for about 2 years. And I already have all those things, so I don't need the stuff. And that's really great, great. And I just know that everything else is going to work itself out. We'll just figure it out one day at a time. So for right now, I'm starting to really enjoy it, and I'm looking forward to having a house full of crazy little kids. But anyway, so that's just my vlog about the day we found out about the twins. And definitely the mood has definitely changed. It went from terrified, crying hysterically like it was a dream for about the first month, and now I'm just so excited, and I really do feel really blessed and overwhelmed, but in a good way, overwhelmed with joy and humbled beyond belief. So anyways, so if you guys want to see any more videos about the twins or just about our family life in general, go ahead and comment below, give me some ideas of what you want to see, and I would be so happy to film for you guys. All right, so I'll talk to y'all later. You have a good day. Bye.